Welcome to TVI Tips from Amanda. This is the third video in a series of videos created to help adults who are sighted, paraprofessionals, parents, new TVIs, teachers who want to learn Braille, to give you guys some strategies for accessing Braille visually and learning the letters of the alphabet. In later videos, we'll talk about groups of contractions and then some numbers and that sort of thing. But in this video, we're looking at the letters N through Z. I'm going to give you some strategies or tips that I've gathered along the way that have worked for me or worked for my students. Some of them will work for you and some of them won't, but just knowing that there are a lot of different options out there for learning how to visually read Braille is really cool. So let's talk about the letter N. Letter N is dots 1, 3, 4, and 5. In a previous video, I talked about the letter M and how I have a student who thought that the person creating Braille was kind of a lazy writer, and so the lazy writer here started writing an N and didn't finish. She is a dual media learner, and the laziness factor worked really well for her in learning her letters. So that's just one strategy for the letter N, just not finishing that last of the straight line on the right side of the letter. Here's O. It's 1, 3, and 5. I have students who think about someone starting to write the letter at the top of the O and writing towards the right as they go around the circle and then stopping at the bottom because they got distracted or maybe lazy. The letter O kind of feels like you're starting to write that O and just didn't finish it. Here's a P. P's dots 1, 2, 3, and 4. For me, visually, a P looks like a P if you put the dot for the 4 inside of the circle on the P, and then the stick for the P is dots 1, 2, and 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is a P. I have had other students, and myself actually, learn Q, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, by thinking it's a backwards Q. Someone got confused and wrote it the wrong way. Q is one of my favorite letters in Braille just because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I love it. Here's an R. It's dots 1, 2, 3, and 5. And I learned R by thinking and equating it to the visual representation. It looks like an R to me. Right here you'll see 1, 2, 3, and 5 on the R. Here's an S. It's 2, 3, and 4. I think about it being a squiggly letter, like an S is squiggly. And so on this slide I've drawn my squiggly S. It kind of feels curvy when you're feeling the shape in Braille. If you're not a good Braille reader yet and you're not moving just in a nice smooth motion from left to right, you might scrub a little, which is not something that we encourage for Braille readers, but just knowing that it kind of squiggles like that S can be helpful. Here's a T. Moving along with that lazy writer, sloppy writer, a T is kind of like a slanted T in Braille. You kind of take your letter and slant it to the right, and you've got 2, 3, 4, 5. For me, that worked. The other saying up over up worked for me. If you're starting at the bottom of the Braille cell, you go up, over, and up. That's how I learned T for myself. But I have other students who like the slanted T, the dual media learners. Here's a U, 1, 3, and 6. Here's a U on a Braille cell if you're thinking about leaving out the dots 2 and the dot 5 here in the middle. Kind of looks like a U. Here's a V, 1, 2, 3, and 6. If you take the Braille cell and kind of turn it a little bit on its left side, you have a V, 1, 2, 3, and 6 right there. That's worked visually for some adults I know. Similarly, here's a W. It's dots 2, 4, 5, and 6. Some people learn that it's the opposite of R, but I don't like to teach people to flop their Braille cells around because all that flopping and moving, and it's the opposite of whatever, can be confusing sometimes. So I try to teach the letters individually, but if you take the W and you slide it a little on its right, I said earlier I said you put the V on the right side. I meant move it to the left. But here on the W, if you slide the W to the right side, it kind of looks like an upside down W. Dots 2, 4, 5, and 6. Here's an X. If you connect dots 1 and 6 and dots 3 and 4, you can make an X. Or some people have learned there's 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom with a big space in the middle of the X. when you feel it or look at it without the blank dots in the middle. Here's a representation of just writing the X with lines. Y is 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. I also like to make some songs to help me memorize the dots of letters. And I would sing 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a Y. If you take the Y braille cell 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 and you turn it on its right side a little bit, you end up with a very wide looking Y, but I have that strategy that's worked for one of my dual media learners. And my same friend who talked about lazy writing earlier has a really neat one she likes to use for the letter Z. The letter Z is 1, 3, 5, and 6. Some people I know have learned it by taking the letter Y, which is 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and just removing that 4. You get a Z, so to have a Y and remove dot 4, or another strategy that's worked is a quick sloppy letter Z with a not so nice top on it. It's if you connect the 1 and the 4 and then make your zigzag for the Z, it can kind of look like that as well. So some of these strategies might work for you to learn the letters, and some of them won't, and it's okay either way. It's no big deal, but I just wanted to share them with you in hopes of fostering some braille literacy and to help you learn your alphabet as you move along. And so later videos we'll talk about some other tips for learning the letters, and then we'll start talking about contractions and groups of letters to do short form words and that sort of thing. Thank you.